Welcome back once again to my tiny shoebox of an apartment. This is where I spend most of my nights these days, and it's got some amazing features, such as dirty dishes on an unmade bed, and potting soil on the floor, which I have no use for anymore because the plant that it was supposed to be for has tragically perished due to a late and unforeseen frost. Now, unfortunately, I won't be in the workshop for a bit, which is why I'm filming this intro here. Nevertheless, I still have an impressive assortment of tools here in my tiny apartment, and that's what I want to show you. Let's start up with the obvious. Cordless drill. Can't go wrong with a cordless drill. Next up, we got a box full of junk. Every apartment has a box full of junk. You gotta have your essential oils. WD-40. I also have a magnetic hot plate and a whole box full of oxypropane torch accessories. Lastly, I also have this tiny suction cup vise, giving me excellent clamping capabilities on all smooth surfaces, such as oven, hot plate, mirror, shower, iMac. Now enough playing around, let's get back to what you actually came here for. In this episode we're going to pretty much finish up the outside of the shed, doing the facade and putting on a door, windowsills, that sort of stuff. And we're also going to do the floor. So without further ado, let's go. I already mentioned this in the last video, but the facade that we decided on is made up of these fiber cement tiles. They are really durable and maintenance free, and usually they're pretty expensive, but I found some leftover and some used ones on eBay, which saved us a ton of money. To prepare them for installation, I first had to center punch and then drill and countersink some holes for mounting. Installing them was pretty straightforward. We just screwed them to the wooden foundation underneath that black tar paper. To keep the gaps looking uniform, we constantly checked the tiles with a level and used tile crosses as spacers, which we removed after the screws were set. For the large surface on the back, we also used string to make sure that the gaps don't wobble around. Curved cutouts for the round windows, for example, were done with a jigsaw and a metal cutting blade. Straight cuts were done with the circular saw and a regular old wood cutting blade. Around that time we also glued in the rectangular windows and just held them in place with some wooden beams while the silicone dried. Alright, we just finished screwing the last tiles on, which were these undersides of these little triangles. And we encountered some coincidences while building this facade that I just have to share because the amount of luck that we had is it shouldn't be possible. We bought these tiles, which are called Eternit here in Germany. They're fiber reinforced concrete basically. I bought these used off of eBay. You know, the amount was really arbitrary. We just bought what they had. We didn't calculate anything. We just kind of bought two piles separately and said should be enough. Now this right here is everything we have left. And this is already remarkable. The white ones, we used every single one. There's only a few scraps left. Not a single complete white one is left. And the yellow ones, just one tile that's left. So that's already pretty incredible. Next, we bought screws. Now we did a really rough calculation, nothing fancy. And we bought a pack of 1,000 stainless steel screws. 1,000. Now guess how many screws we used to put these tiles up. I'm not making this shit up, I counted. 999 screws. We bought the 1,000 screws and had to use 999. How? How is that even possible? some really bad weather made us realize that we need to get the shop closed up fast. So next we prioritized making a door for it. We decided that a sliding door would be the best option, so I bought a cheap mechanism on eBay and was pleasantly surprised at how well it was made. We mounted the rail directly to the facade, making sure that we installed it where there was solid wood underneath. Next up, we had to build the door itself. For that we got ourselves some regular plywood for the interior and some resin-coated plywood for the exterior. To start off, we screwed a wooden frame to the inside of the outer sheet as a spacer and to provide some extra stability. We had a bunch of these foam sticks, which are essentially small pool noodles still laying around, so we thought why not use them to insulate the door. We cut them to length and then sliced them in half with an electric bread knife. Then I glued these down in alternating orientation. Once that was finished, we closed everything up with the second sheet of plywood. At the bottom we inserted this aluminum profile, which will later be used to keep the door aligned. My mom was kind enough to take care of the painting, and I wasn't really keen on that job anyway. Then we prepared to attach the rollers for the door. These bolts had to be recessed, or else they would have scraped against the facade. I made this little steel bracket which reaches into that profile at the bottom of the door to keep it in line and close to the wall. With the door installed, our next task was to get the floor done. Before we could do that though, the aluminium tread plates had to be cleaned, so here's some power washing shots, cause I know some of you find this really satisfying. We decided that it would be a good idea to dampen the sound of the aluminum floor, so we cut these thick rubber mats into strips. This was so tiring that we actually took turns doing it. I then nailed these strips to the wooden floor grid. After that I cut and laid out the insulation for the floor. Now we were ready to close up the floor. The tread plates were put into place, drilled, countersunk and screwed down. The final floor piece at the door was left with an overhang, which we bent around the corner. You have no idea how satisfying it was to finally walk on solid ground rather than having to dance around on wooden beams like we have for the past couple of weeks. A little later in the project we looked back on the door and decided that its upper edge as well as the sliding mechanism should have some protection from the elements. So a tiny roof for it had to be made. Therefore I got this really nice aluminum angle at my local scrapyard for just $10 and made some holders for it. Now everything just had to be bolted together, and just like that, we had a little roof. Finally, to complete the facade, we had to somehow seal all of the corners. For the upper end of the walls, the back corners and the cutouts for the large windows, we used a bunch of these white plastic angles which we glued on with silicone and temporarily fixed with tape. We also got ourselves this aluminum windowsill which needed to fit around the center beam of this back window. Lastly, we also ordered some aluminum 135-degree angles to finish up the corners in the front. Wow, what an excellent video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it wasn't too boring. I'll try to edit the next one quicker, but there's things keeping me from it, mostly work and the big sad. But, you know, I'll see what I can do. I got at least one really cool project lined up that sort of falls in line with the Cerament stuff. That's really cool. It's finished, it's filmed. I just have to edit it. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.